Yeah, right there lads, aggressively British here, and in my last video, I ripped this overrated piece of shit to shreds. Now if you haven't watched that video already, which you absolutely should by the way, I'm going to sum up my feelings for this game in just 9 words. Where did all the blast go for this processing? But yeah, I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's go on to the sequel and hope that this game at least somewhat improved on the formula. As I just said in my last video, I took a look back at the original Sonic game for the Mega Drive to see if all the hype surrounding it was justified. Needless to say, it really wasn't. My main gripes with the game were that 1, it was really slow for a game that was marketed and emphasised for its speed, and 2, the difficulty was bipolar as fuck, and the lack of a save feature made the quote-unquote good ending borderline impossible to reach without save states. And even then, the good ending is barely even good, it just adds flower to the end screen. Whoop-de-fucking-do. So what I'm going to be doing first and foremost in this video is I'm going to be reviewing Sonic 2 based on its own merits to see if it stands up on its own. But then, I'll be comparing it to the original to see if it's better than the original or worse than the original. So yeah, let's not waste any time and just get into this shit. First off, the story. You thought there'd be story in a Sonic game again? You fool. There is a tad bit of retconning to the series here, but there's nothing too major. The big capsules filled with animals are still there, and Robotnik is still after the magical plot devices, the Chaos Emeralds. The only real difference in the story is that there's now 7 Chaos Emeralds instead of 6. Why? I don't know, maybe the game designers just thought that collecting 6 of the bastards in the original game wasn't frustrating enough that they just decided to add another one into the equation for good measure. Or maybe 6 emeralds just wasn't enough to get Robotnik's to 6 inches. Either way, you still need to collect all 7 of the emeralds to see the good ending of the game. Now, the graphics. Alright. Just for reference, when this game was released in 1992, the SNES had already been on the market for 2 years and brought us absolute beauties of games such as Super Mario World, F-Zero and Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. So at this point, Sega couldn't really point and laugh at the competition for having clearly inferior graphics anymore. But that doesn't mean that this game is a graphical slouch, because it certainly isn't. The backgrounds are beautifully detailed, the stages are bright and colourful, and the special stages are pseudo 3D, which must have been quite the feat to pull off on a base Mega Drive. As well as this, each of the 11 zones! 11 bloody zones! I have to play through 11 zones! I think I'm gonna need more tea. Each of the 11 zones have their own unique visual style that makes them stand out. You've got your typical grassy stage, a casino, a chemical plant, and a not so typical water zone. Okay, so the graphics are kind of impressive. But how's that soundtrack? Oh, it is fucking amazing. Not only are these tracks absolutely brilliant, they're bona fide classics in my opinion. I'd say they're even more iconic than the original game soundtrack. Some of my favourite songs in this soundtrack are Emerald Hill Zone, Casino Night Zone, the Bosch theme, and my absolute favourite, not just in this game but the entire classic Sonic franchise, is Chemical Plant Zone. I don't know what it is about it, but it just got stuck in my head since the first time I listened to it, and now I absolutely love it. Now let's stop dilly-dallying about the sound and graphics and whatnot. Let's get into the actual gameplay. On the surface, there's no real change in the gameplay between Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. The only big difference between the two is the addition of the heavenly spin dash. In Sonic 1, if you wanted to roll into a ball to eliminate enemies, you'd need to have the momentum to roll for an extended period of time. This also made building up speed a bit of a pain in the original, because there are certain points in the game where you can get stuck trying to build up speed to get up a rank or something. Now all of those frustrating moments of trying to build up speed are history. Simply hold down on the D-pad and spam one of the buttons, let go and watch Sonic zoom across the stage like the blast process hedgehog he is. Does that make sense? Not really. I mean, has anyone really stopped to question how Sonic is able to spin on the spot so fast that he can propel himself at will at massive speed without seriously injuring himself? Physics breaking nonsense aside, there are some moments where you can really feel that blast processing that the Americans were promised. For example, in Chemical Plant Zone, there were a few points where the screen was actually having a bit of trouble keeping up with Sonic. When you reach these massive speeds, it can be really fun to just watch Sonic zip through the stages without much effort. By far the biggest difference between this and the original gameplay though is the inclusion of a brand new character called Miles Prower. He's nicknamed Tails because he has tails, I guess. Maybe Sega's marketing team couldn't decide on whether his name should be a physical description of him or the funniest pun known to man, so they just decided, you know what, fuck it, let's include both. His inclusion can range from either, oh cool, I have this new friend to go on an adventure with, to, for fuck's sake Tails, stop running into the bombs you twat. But I'll get into that later. The game in its most basic description is a typical 2D platformer. You can run, jump and do the glorious spin dash that I just discussed. While you're running through one of the 20 acts in this game, you can collect rings that are scattered throughout the level or in designated monitors. These essentially act as your health bar. If you get hit, you lose your rings and they scatter all over the place. If you've seen my Sonic 1 video, it's the same song and dance. The game is split up into 11 different zones. The first 7 of these zones are split up into 2 acts, the first of which is a typical 2D Sonic level. Get from the start of the level to the end signpost. The second act is a typical platform level. Get from the start to the end of the level. But this time, instead of there being a signpost of Dr. Robotnik, there's Dr. Robotnik himself and you need to fight him. These fights range from a slowly moving car with a drill stuck on it, a flying capture with a hammer, and a slowly moving car with a drill at the end of it, but this time it flies. The 8th zone has 3 acts, the first 2 of which are your regular A to B platformer levels, and the 3rd stage is a platformer level and a boss stage. The last 3 zones are 1 act endeavours, with a boss battle at the end of 2 of them, barring Sky Chase Zone. As I mentioned before, each of the 11 stages have their own unique visual style, and with that comes a unique identity and playstyle for each zone. I'm now going to give a brief description of each of the zones. Emerald Hill Zone. It's basically just Green Hill Zone 2. Really the only thing that stands out about this zone is the pathetic excuse for a boss battle. Robotnik literally just sits in his little drill car and drives slowly from left to right just waiting for you to put him out of his misery. He doesn't even do anything cool like change direction halfway through or anything. He literally just drives from left to right. I get that it was the first boss so they couldn't make it too challenging, but for fuck's sake, at least make it a bit more interesting than just making him drive a fucking drill car from side to side. Chemical Plant Zone. It's a completely different beast altogether from Emerald Zone. While there are a few moments where you can outrun the screen, there are equally as many scenarios where you'll need to watch your footing or risk doing a bit of the stage again. There's also moments where you'll be climbing on moving platforms underwater. But to be honest, I think this game has a perfect balance between these scenarios. The speedy sections, although brief, are really fun, and the underwater sections, although still retaining the same sluggish controls from the original, are brief and challenging enough so that each death feels warranted and that each victory feels rewarding. The boss is alright. Robotnik just floats over pools of water, filling up a cup which he spills on you, which hurts you? Wait, what the fuck? You're telling me I've been submerged in the water for the majority of the zone, but the moment Robotnik tips some water on my head, it becomes lethal? Answer me, you bitch! It's not that hard. Just make sure you don't fall into those holes in the ground after you beat him, otherwise you'll just have to do the battle again. Those things are the absolute definition of a beginner's trap. Aquatic Ruin Zone, a quite unique idea for an underwater stage. Instead of 99% of the levels being submerged underwater, half of the zone is a regular ground running affair with the other half being submerged. Although the game still retains the same floaty as underwater controls as its predecessor, it isn't nearly as painful in this game because the underwater segments don't drag on for nearly as long as a certain zone. The boss in this zone is honestly kinda meh. There's two totem poles and Robotnik just goes from left to right, hitting them with his hammer, which causes them to fire an arrow, which he uses as a platform to jump off of and hit him. A quite unique idea for a boss battle, but executed kinda meh. It's an alright fight, but it's nothing really to write home about. Casino Night Zone. This zone was actually kinda fun. It's filled to the brim with springs, paddles and bumpers that make it fly all over the place. It was actually quite fun to watch Sonic just getting bounced around at high speeds. The boss, on the other hand, not so much. It takes place in this oval-shaped arena with Robotnik floating from side to side with the bottom of his capsule having an electric barrier, which forces you to attack from either the sides or the top. This is much easier said than done because most of the time I find myself missing Robotnik because every time I go to attack, because of the size of the arena, he goes off screen, so I need to take a blind guess at where he is. It isn't really that challenging or anything, it's just a bit annoying. Hilltop Zone. Literally the only thing that I can remember from this zone is that there's a section with rising lava they need to run from. The boss consists of Robotnik in his capsule firing, fire out of it, and then hiding in one of the two lava pits and then emerging from the other one until you're given what's what. Mr. Cave Zone. It's alright, I don't really have much trouble with it. There's these branches and levers that you jump on to pull down bridges and doors. That's about all I can remember from it. Just watch out for the haha gotcha trap in the second act and you'll be all good. This is the absolute definition of a beginner's trap. The boss is something. It's a slightly more threatening version of Emerald Hill's boss. This time he has two drills and he can fly. Yeah, it's not really that hard, just jump on him and a few times in his history. Oil Ocean Zone. It's alright. I definitely wouldn't go out my way to play the zone again, but it was alright when I played through it. The boss is a submarine with a laser shooting hentai. Just don't try and jump on the tail and you'll be grand. Metropolis Zone. Fuck this zone. This zone is absolute fucking torture. If you thought Labyrinth Zone was bad, oh boy, you've seen fuck all yet. Horrible enemy placement is the order of the day here, with the number of times I've been ambushed out of nowhere by these f***ing mantis-looking twats being rivaled only by the amount of brain cells I've lost trying to get through this shitty of a zone. Also, it just f***ing drags on for 3 whole acts. My question is, why the f***ing hell did they make the worst zone in this game the one with 3 acts? The boss is also confusing as fuck. Robotnik has a shield of balls that forces you to hit him from below, and every time you hit him it spawns a Robotnik balloon or something. I don't know what sort of crack they were smoking to come up with this but it must have been some powerful stuff. Sky Chase Zone. You're on a plane, but you don't actually directly control the plane itself because I guess that would be too simple. Instead, you control Sonic running on the plane. This gives the movement an annoyingly noticeable lag. Good thing this zone is short and sweet though. Wing Fortress Zone, aka Beginner's Trap the Zone. If you make a single f***ing mistake in this zone, you're f***ing dead and you're being sent right back to the start. Needless to say, I abused the f*** out of the Mega Drive Collection's rewind feature here. The boss. Oh, the boss. It's some weird ceiling laser. But there's also these spiky platforms that you need to jump on to hit the bloody thing. The problem with this boss is that it takes place in such an enclosed space. In other words, thank f*** for the rewind feature. Death Egg Zone is just 2 bosses in a row. a metallic Sonic, and Robotnik in a off massive robot. Although you don't get any rings throughout the zone, thus making you do a no-hit run of both the bosses, they're not really that hard. Just for reference, this is coming from a guy who was abusing the feature that rewinds every mistake, so take this with several heaping grains of salt. These two are reliant on attack patterns, so all you really need to do is learn the attack patterns and kick their asses. Okay, so that's all well and good, but what about 100% completion? To get the good ending of this game, just like the original, you need to collect the now 7 Chaos Emeralds. These are hidden within the special stages, which you can access via the checkpoints if you have 50 rings on you. If you do, a sparkly ring will appear on the top of the checkpoint, which you then need to jump into. Just for the love of God, make sure you don't zoom right past the buggers. I've done and rewound that my fair share of times. The special stages in this game are f***ing painful if you have Tails with you. Do yourself a favour, if you're going for the good ending, go to the options and pick Sonic only. Trust me, it'll save you a lot of for f***'s sake Tails moments. The special stages are these pseudo 3D half-pipe levels where you need to collect a certain amount of rings to pass 3 checkpoints while avoiding bombs. These are incredibly based on memorization, so I guess if you have the time and patience to memorize all of these stages, you could probably beat these with no issue, besides the controls. I don't know, maybe it just didn't click for me, but I always found the controls in the special stages to be awkward as hell. Not to mention the incredibly pixelated look of the stages themselves are disorienting as f***. Don't get us wrong, these are technical marvels and really impressive to be running on a base Mega Drive, but actually playing them is a whole other can of worms. I guess you could say it's not my cup of tea. Unlike the original though, there is an actual reward for completing the game, which I entered a cheat code for. That reward is Super Sonic. If you collect 50 rings after collecting all 7 Chaos Emeralds, you will go turn into Super Sonic. As Super Sonic, you're invincible and move at ridiculous speeds. This is at the cost of a few rings though, so make sure to keep restocking your rings as you go. Super Sonic is a really fun inclusion to the game and a brilliant reward for beating the game with the 7 Chaos Emeralds. It's at least infinitely better than anything Sonic 1 I've had. Right, to end off this video, I think I'm going to do a lightning round comparing Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, just sort of summarising my thoughts in a nice, neat package to end it off. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go! I think that Sonic 2 overall is a much better game from its predecessor. Graphically speaking, there's not really much of an improvement. In terms of story, there is a slight retconning, with there being 7 Chaos Emeralds instead of 6. I honestly kind of prefer the 6 Chaos Emeralds to the original, mainly because it's less of a pain in the arse to collect 6 than it is 7. But sound-wise, I much prefer Sonic 2 soundtrack. Maybe it's just me, but I find Sonic 2's soundtrack to be a lot more memorable than Sonic 1 soundtrack. Don't get us wrong, Sonic 1 still has some really good and memorable tracks, but Sonic 2 just has a much wider variety of tracks. In terms of gameplay, you have a partner to run around with you in Sonic 2, but at best he's a sort of a cool little addition, and at worst he's an absolutely frustrating pain in the arse. And in terms of special stages, it's really a pick your poison situation. Would you rather have a pain in the arse spinny maze, or a vomit-inducing pseudo 3D half-pipe? Pick your poison. But overall, yeah, I do think that Sonic 2 did improve on Sonic 1 in most aspects. Did Sonic 3 and Knuckles manage to improve on the formula with their lock-on technology? Find out next time. And also, if you're wondering why I'm not covering these games separately, it's because 1, the Mega Drive collection only includes Sonic 3 and Knuckles as one, and 2, I'd much rather just do one big video instead of doing two separate videos. So yeah, that was this video, and I hope you hated it. If you did, please make sure to smash that dislike button, and while you're at it, make sure to subscribe as well. See you next time.